Hey guys, so I figured that today was as good as any to talk about the 3DS, just like the problems I have with it, its launch, the fact that it didn't have Call of Duty on it. Midnight, I'm talking about the 3DS. There wasn't a Direct last week, come on, right? Let's talk about the Nintendo Direct!
Holy shit, it's about time! Nintendo finally is coming out of the woodworks and announcing games again in their iconic fashion. Nintendo Directs are always a huge event, or at least hyped up to be one. Whether or not these Direct video announcements are good, they always make me super excited and guarantee me using sick leave from work. Nintendo started these guys back in 2011, and ever since then they've been staples of the company for how they announce releases of titles coming to their current gaming platforms. Up through 2019, Nintendo Directs were pretty consistent, usually getting 2 or 3 of these hour-long events every year or so. And then 2020 hit the scene and everything got flipped on its head, but after 18 months, we can finally witness Shinya Takahashi once again. This Direct was stated to focus on the company's releases for the first half of 2021 and on some Super Smash Bros. News. So half of it is interesting to me. I watched the Direct, had a lot of fun, cried a little bit, and now let's talk about it. Mythra and Pyra are in Smash Brothers! This was only a matter of time, I feel like. With Shulk being added in, I was wondering how long it was going to be to add the most iconic characters from the game's sequel. The way they introduced them also was extremely clever. I wasn't sure at first if it was a Smash reveal. They didn't give the iconic Smash logo at the beginning like they normally do of a Smash reveal, so it turned a lot of heads for people, I feel like. But man, once they got into showing off their moveset, it looked super cool and fun. And now I know a lot of people groaned at having another anime sword fighter. It's hard to say that those groans aren't unwarranted thanks to the Fire Emblem cast over here. However, those same people that complain about anime sword fighters didn't say a single thing when Sephiroth was added to Smash. So I feel like this complaint is more directed at Nintendo anime sword fighters. In that same vein, I've heard complaints about it being another first-party Nintendo character, and while I would love Crash, Master Chief, or the obvious choice, Cooking Mama, we just had Sephiroth added, and that's a huge third-party character. Plus, Nintendo has always wanted Xenoblade to be a bigger series than it has been. It's really big in Japan, and they want it to be just so much more successful in the West than it actually is. I mean, they ported Xenoblade 1 how many times? They definitely want the series to be bigger than it actually is. I'm also not a huge Smash fan. I play the games and enjoy them a lot, but I'm not popping them in every day to play, so don't take my 2 cents as actually mattering. Moving on, after getting a warm welcome from the man himself, we get some third-party announcements?
What?
Hear me out on this one. In 2020, we had a slew of mini-directs titled Partner Showcases specifically produced with the intent to show off cool third-party games coming to the Switch. When these were being produced, I figured, okay, cool. This means that when full-fledged Nintendo Directs return, they will primarily be for first-party announcements, and the third-party games will be in their own Directs, aka these mini-partner showcases.
Well, clearly I was a fucking idiot for thinking that.
So this begs the question, what was the point of creating a subset of Directs titled Partner Showcases if you were just going to put them in the normal Directs at the end of the day? Was it because 2020 was such a crazy year you couldn't do a full-fledged Direct at all, so you decided that the best thing to do was mini-Directs? But it just feels a bit weird, right? I can't be alone in feeling that. But enough about my whining, we have Fall Guys coming to the Switch, hell yeah! This game is just perfect for the Switch. It's a Battle Royale Mario Party minigame style game. It's hard to not expect this one to 1, be coming to the Switch, and 2, to be a smash hit. I do wish that they had announced some unique items for the Switch version, like Mario costumes or something in that vein. Maybe they will before its release in summer of 2021. If not, it's not a huge deal, but having a little bit extra incentive to buy it on Switch versus PC would be nice. Next up, they announced Outer Wilds, and oh my, this looks rough. Now, I've heard a lot of great things about this game, specifically how it makes you think and comprehend the game after you put the controller down. I'm so glad that we're getting another deep game like this on Switch. But that being said, this game was definitely not intended to come to Switch originally. It being ported over is a cool addition, but it feels like it's in the same category as The Witcher 3 or Doom. A game that could be ported over to Switch, and if that's the only system you have to experience the game on, cool. You'll probably get a fine experience with it. But if you can, you probably want to pick it up on another console. Now this is a cool announcement. Famicom Detective Club is coming to the West. Okay, sure thing. In 2 separate games? Okay. It looks really cool, and it looks like it's fully animated, and it has full voice acting for Japan. That's actually pretty cool, and it's some nice high details that I'm sure the originals didn't have. And I gotta say, I love it when Nintendo brings Japan-exclusive games to the West that aren't Mother 3. Samurai Warriors 5 is headed to the Switch, and I gotta ask, Why is Nintendo so hyped up about Dynasty Warrior games? We just got Age of Calamity, which is also getting an expansion pass announced later in the event, but I'll get to that when the time comes. We also just had Persona 5 Strikers announced, so why are we getting all of these Warrior games? Having all these is really cool, don't get me wrong, but could we just wait a little bit longer in between these releases so the market doesn't feel so saturated by them? Legend of Mana is coming to Switch and it looks pretty good. This particular announcement isn't for me, but I have a lot of friends that are super excited for it, and that's awesome. Next we have a new trailer for Monster Hunter Rise, and man, it looks good. Capcom knows how to make this series just look solid. I've only played Monster Hunter World, and that was such a cool experience that it makes me really excited for Monster Hunter Rise. I do wish that they had focused a little bit less on the story side of it. Monster Hunter for me was always about going and fighting awesome, big, huge monsters in great locations instead of playing through the story of the game. They did show off some cool monsters, don't get me wrong, but most of the trailer took place in a village that you'll be defending in the main storyline. I just wanted to see more of the world than just the village, but we are getting a Monster Hunter Switch and Pro Controller edition, so really all my critiques at this point are completely invalid.
So we're about a third of the way through this direct, and we've had some pretty decent announcements so far, don't get me wrong, but I think I'm starting to lose interest. Holy!
Mario Golf is back! It's been almost 2 decades since we last got anything that wasn't tennis on a Nintendo console. Plus, this doesn't look like an Ultra Smash, so they actually put effort into this game. You can use button controls as well as motion controls. We have a story mode, normal golf mode, and a new speed mode. This mode is actually really exciting. It's always your turn, and you just have to run to get to your ball first and score before everybody else. You can use power-ups like the ice flower they showed off. You can run really quickly. There was a star, I think, that they showed off you could use. It's so interesting and cool. I'm actually excited to see this. How has this mode not been in a Mario Golf game before this? But who cares why we haven't? It's another Mario Golf game! Ah!
Okay, I'm good now. I'm good.
Whew, okay, so to follow that up, we have a slew of third-party releases that could have easily been in the mini directs. But Nintendo insisted that they be in the full-fledged direct. So because of this, I'm gonna give as much love and attention as Nintendo did with these games. If I don't have much to say, it's mostly because these games look good, but aren't my cup of tea. First up, we have Tales from the Borderlands.
It looks okay.
Capcom Arcade Stadium.
That's a Capcom Arcade Stadium.
Stubbs the Zombie in Rebel Without a Pulse.
That's definitely a Stubbs the Zombie in Rebel Without a Pulse.
No More Heroes 3.
This actually looks great. Suda51 really knows how to make his game full of personality and style. It comes out in August, and with the other 2 games being already on Switch, that gives me more than enough time to figure out exactly what a No More Heroes game is actually about.
Neon White. Am I the only one that watched this and still doesn't know what this game is about? It looks like a run-and-gun shooter with cards, but the cutscenes are in a storyboard style? I personally have no interest in it, but it looks interesting to say the least. Available in winter of 2021, you say? Okay, what happened to announcements of the games in the first half of the year? Whatever, it's just one game, not a big deal. DC Superhero Girls Teen Power.
Thank this is coming to Switch.
Plants vs. Zombies Battle for the Neighborhoodville Complete Edition.
It looks okay.
Metopia.
Wait, what?
This one caught me off guard. I was not expecting a 3DS port to come to Switch. This is actually super exciting. Not for the actual game, God no, it's Metopia, I mean, come on. I personally don't care that much for Metopia, even when it originally came to 3DS. No, what I'm excited for is that this opens the gates for 3DS games to come to Switch. I mean, come on, we could get Kid Icarus Uprising. Everyone's been asking for either a port of Kid Icarus Uprising or another Kid Icarus game. And Sakurai said he wasn't gonna do any more, but come on guys, you could easily just put this game on the Switch, it wouldn't be that difficult. We could get Metroid Samus Returns on the Switch, Kirby Planet Robobot. Well, it would just be more ports and not new games coming to Switch.
I love my port machine, what can I say?
Super Mario Animal Crossing update. This is actually really cool. Everyone thought that Animal Crossing was done with updates up to this point, so to give us one that not only adds a bunch of new costumes and items, but a whole new mechanic like the warp pipe is just awesome. It feels like a very Nintendo thing to do for the 35th anniversary of Mario. I'm really glad that they're adding more to Animal Crossing on Switch. It feels like the mobile version is getting a lot more updates than the actual Switch game, which is extremely disappointing when you think about it. So I really hope that they add just a lot more updates for the Switch version. After that, we had Takahashi come out and say, hey, just FYI, we released Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury last week. You should go buy it. That kind of felt weirdly out of nowhere and completely out of place.
We forgot to mention 3D World in the Direct!
Next, we got a trailer for a new tactical RPG in the same art style as Octopath Traveler, named Project Triangle Strategy.
Yes!
Okay, Square Enix, what the hell is this name? I understand that this is a temporary name for it, and it's a working title, but they announced that it was going to be demoed on the eShop, and I feel that if you're going to go as far as to put it out there for people to play, you should probably come up with a better name than that. Hopefully this game does more to keep me invested than Octopath Traveler did. I like Octopath Traveler a lot, don't get me wrong, but I kinda got bored with it after a couple hours in. It takes a lot for RPGs to keep me invested, to be honest. Anyways, we have another barrage of games to talk about. Star Wars Hunters. I feel like everyone, even the most die-hard Star Wars fans, looked at this game and said,
"What the f*** was that?"
Knockout City. This actually had a very clever trailer with interviews of unique characters that had absolutely nothing to do with the game. World's End Club.
It looks okay.
Hades Physical Edition. I've heard a lot of great things about this game, and now that it's getting a physical release, there's a good chance that I pick it up and give it a shot. Ninja Gaiden Master Collection. It's great that we're getting these games ported to a new system. Ninja Gaiden before could only be played on the original Xbox, and Ninja Gaiden 3 was on a console that had gingivitis. Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity Expansion Pass. This was dropped without even giving enough time to read what was all coming to it. Forget saying that Takahashi talking about 3D World felt out of place. This really doesn't feel like it should be here.
Damn it, we forgot Age of Calamity's Expansion Pass 2!
Nintendo gave Bravely Default 2 one final push to make sure it sells well. I can't wait to pick that up and not play it. Ghosts and Goblins Resurrection.
It looks okay.
Saga Frontier Remastered.
Cool.
Apex Legends.
That was Apex Legends.
After that, we had a classic Nintendo tease of them saying there'd just be a little bit more to show us. The screen fades to black and AG Enuma fades in.
Finally, we're gonna get some amazing news on Breath of the Wild 2. Maybe a new title, or maybe an update on what the premise is gonna be. Hit me with it, Enuma!
I'm sure a lot of you saw me and thought there might be news about the sequel to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild game. Unfortunately, we don't have anything to share right now. We apologize.
Yeah, so we didn't get anything new besides we're working on it, and that kinda sucks. He said that they would be giving us more info later in the year, and while I'm sure that's the best they could have done, having Enuma show up just to say that feels awful. However, he did bring something to the table, so his appearance wasn't all for nothing. The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword is getting an HD remastered treatment. I knew this was gonna happen eventually. With both Wind Waker and Twilight Princess getting remasters that, in my opinion, make them the definitive way to play them, it was only a matter of time before Skyward Sword got the same treatment. It's kind of ironic when you think about it how Skyward Sword was the last game to come out before Breath of the Wild completely switched up the formula for Zelda games, and then Skyward Sword is the first game to come out after Breath of the Wild was released. Huh. Obviously, they kept the motion controls the same via the Joy-Cons, but that brought up the question of what are they going to do for the Switch Lite? Well, they decided to match it to the right control stick. I'm curious to see how this feels. I'm pretty skeptical on whether that will feel good or not when playing the game, but it's the best option they could have come up with to not alienate the people who bought Switch Lites. The footage also looked like it was running in 60 frames per second, which is huge if that is the case. Every 3D Zelda game leading up to this point had been in 30 FPS, so getting one in 60 will be a breath of fresh air for the franchise. Alongside the game, Enuma showed off some honestly super sweet Joy-Cons themed after the Master Sword and Hylian's Shield. It's really thematic that Nintendo is actually doing this, because the original Skyward Sword released with a Zelda-themed Wii remote back during the Wii era for $70. If only that were the case today, Nintendo.
This seems like a decent spot to end, but if I know Nintendo, they got just one more game up their sleeves.
Please take a look at this.
I knew it!
Splatoon 3 was our last game of the Direct, and...
It looks okay.
Okay, I actually really like Splatoon, don't get me wrong, but if I'm being honest, Splatoon 3 was probably the last first-party game I wanted to see. It looks super interesting, but something about the trailer just felt incomplete to me. Like, the trailer starts out with this super interesting post-apocalyptic vibe to it, and then suddenly you're in a populated city with planes and other Inklings. The tone just shifted so quickly and it felt really bizarre. The actual gameplay looks like a ton of fun. I mean, it's Splatoon, the game is a blast. Being able to pick where you start is actually a great mechanic, and it feels like the next evolution for the games. But besides all that, it just feels like another Splatoon game.
So needless to say, the best way to describe this Direct was okay.
This Direct had nothing crazy of note besides a handful of games that was announced. Mario Golf is super exciting, announcing a new Smash Fighter is always fun, Fallout Guys coming to Switch is big, Skyward Sword getting HD was inevitable, but for me, that was all that caught my eye. It also didn't help that many things throughout the event felt out of place or just added at the last second. Even with all of this was still a totally passable Direct. I've heard a lot of people say that this is just a terrible Direct. It was absolute garbage, it was complete trash. People, did you watch any of the events from 2015 or 2016? There was nothing in those. And honestly, comparing this to the Direct we got where they announced Chibi Robo Ziplash and Mario Tennis Ultra Smash and Amiibo Festival, this Direct was totally fine. And if we're being completely honest with ourselves, no full-fledged Nintendo Direct would have lived up to the hype of 18 months.
But at least we'll be getting Splatoon 3 in the first half of 2021 because that was the whole theme of this Direct. Apparently 2022 is happening in the first half of 2021.